Urgent. What you need to know about birthright citizenship and native sovereignty. This is a summary of critical information that I've covered in previous videos. If you have questions, I've already broken down each of these points in detail, so check my past videos for deeper context. The DOG memo from February 5th, how it signals attempt to undermine birthright citizenship by outlining consequences for aliens. The Supreme Court's shadow docket, how they can make rulings without hearings or public transparency. Trump's emergency power strategy, how he could bypass Congress and lower courts to remove birthright citizenship overnight. What happens if Canada is annexed, and how First Nations sovereignty is at immediate risk. This video is about connecting the dots and making sure you see the full picture. If you're not caught up, watch my previous videos first, then come back and drop your questions in the comments. Share this immediately. Engagement is everything. We are in a fight against algorithmic suppression, and every comment, share, and repost breaks that containment. Let's move. Remember, comment, comment, comment. Birthright citizenship, the Supreme Court coup pathway. Immediate threat assessment. The Supreme Court is positioned as the final control mechanism in a legal coup against birthright citizenship. The path forward is clear. Dissolving separation of powers to centralize legal control in the Supreme Court. Shadow docket rulings for rapid legal transformation, allowing decisions without hearings or transparency. Emergency powers as bypass mechanism to push extreme rulings without congressional oversight. What this means for First Nations and Indigenous sovereignty is if Trump annexes Canada, the Indian Act is terminated instantly. But that does not mean First Nations will be granted U.S. citizenship. Instead, the same legal framework used to target Indigenous people in the U.S. would be applied to First Nations in Canada. Canada has already framed immigrants and Indigenous people as aliens, creating the legal framework for mass removal. Eliminating the lower courts consolidates power at the Supreme Court, ensuring no judicial challenge can intervene. Shadow docket is equal to citizenship termination. The Supreme Court can use a shadow docket to make a single ruling that removes birthright citizenship overnight without public debate. They do not need They do not need Congress. They do not need a legal challenge. They only need a fabricated emergency to justify a ruling. Some recent Supreme Court cases indicate this pathway. For example, Moore versus U.S., rewriting the concept of taxation, laying groundwork for unchecked executive financial power. 2. Halen versus Brackeen, testing the water for overturning Indigenous sovereignty rights. And 3. Texas immigration cases, expanding state-level enforcement of anti-immigrant policies, hinting at national precedent. Worst-case scenario, Emergency Act and military jurisdiction. Trump could declare an immigration crisis, real or staged, and invoke emergency powers to bypass Congress. ICE, Border Patrol, and the military could be mobilized immediately to enforce citizenship terminations. Deportations or removal of Indigenous populations from tribal lands could begin before legal challenges could even be filed. Key legal questions they don't want people asking if birthright citizenship is removed. What happens to existing U.S. citizens? Will this be used to strip citizenship from specific populations, or does it apply universally? Can a future Supreme Court reverse this ruling, or will it be framed as permanent? What happens to children born in USA during this legal limbo? Will First Nations people in Canada be classified as foreign nationals under U.S. jurisdiction? Resistance strategy, breaking the coup pathway. We need to expose the Supreme Court's unchecked power. Frame this as an authoritarian takeover, not just a citizenship issue. Highlight how lower courts are being removed to allow unchecked Supreme Court rulings, and connect this to the Project 2025 legal restructuring plan. Now, I've been pushing you to go to my Substack and read my story, The Theta Directive, and this is why. Everything that is happening today is part of a broader technocratic plan led by figures like Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, and Trump's AI and crypto czar David Sachs, who are working to dissolve democracy, centralized power under the Supreme Court, and reclassify entire populations as aliens to justify removal. We've broken down this global technocratic coup in previous videos and in the Theta Directive 2.0. If you want to understand how this fits into the bigger plan, make sure you check those out. The Theta Directive 2 is on Substack, and you can find it via my profile. It is the third post. The second thing you can do is undermine emergency power justification. Preemptively call out staged immigration crises. Highlight past abuses of emergency powers in history. Make it clear that this is a legal coup, not a policy shift. The third thing you can do is amplify Indigenous sovereignty as a counter-narrative. Use the Annexation of Canada as a legal tipping point. The third thing you can do is amplify Indigenous sovereignty as counter-narrative. You can use the Annexation of Canada as a legal tipping point. You need to ask the critical question: what happens to First Nations if Canada ceases to exist? Show how Indigenous sovereignty laws are being dismantled as a part of a larger strategy. Here are your next steps. Integrate this video right now as an extension of the original Birthright Citizenship video. Make sure you're sharing both. Ensure the Supreme Court coup framing is at the forefront. Break down key cases in simple terms for mass sharing. Prepare engagement calls to action. Comments and shares disrupt algorithmic suppression. The number one thing that we're noticing that breaks us out of the suppression algorithms is if you comment on our posts and you share them. This is a legal battlefield, and the Supreme Court is their primary weapon. Our best defense is public awareness and engagement before they strike.